Hi, y'all. I'm Elizabeth Fairchild, and I wanted to tell you about my issue. Um, what I chose was to write about war on teachers, so to speak. And the title of my paper was "Is a War on Teachers in American Public Education Warranted?" And where I got that is obvious, right? It's all in the news all the time. And considering we just have a new Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, um, I thought it was probably something that's very relevant to today, especially as leaders in the education field. It's kind of hard to decide. So anyway, the initial article that I found was from the Washington Post. It was talking about the real problem isn't teachers necessarily. You know that, I know that, and in the paper I talk about that. Let's consider some of the issues that teachers in a classroom 187 days out of the year can't do anything about, which is poverty. Issues outside of the home, issues in the community surrounding the home. Those are things that obviously we can't do anything about. We can just do the best that we can while they're with us. One of the things that I found that was really kind of disheartening was after Betsy DeVos went on a tour of some schools, her first response was, quote, "Teachers are waiting to be told what they have to do." I guess her being new, really, to public education, and getting out there and seeing what's going on. I think what she may have witnessed was teachers probably scared for their life that she's there. But I don't believe that teachers are waiting to be told what to do. We are some of the best problem solvers ever. What I used for my paper was, let's see, 19 articles, and of course our 2 textbooks. Some of the topics that I found that were relevant is an appraisal perspective of teacher burnout, examining the emotional work of teachers. It sounds like, oh, okay, somebody's going to listen. Somebody knows that this is a reality, and teachers do get burnout. But what I found in this, it was written by Mei-Lin Chang, and it was published Educational Psychology Review. So if that tells you something, this person is not in the education field, but they are in the field of psychology. It says educational psychology, but basically what this research that was conducted does is, it admits to, teaching is a labor-intensive, one of the most labor-intensive, emotionally draining jobs that you could ever have. But this author essentially blames it on teachers. Apparently, we're not supposed to have any psychosocial needs for, self-actualization, self-efficacy, wanting to be treated with respect. They had some good suggestions in here about what we can do to get by in our jobs. So that was pretty interesting. But really, what I was trying to do was find, are we the problem? Is it us? And I mean, we already know the answer to that, right? But I wanted to identify what represents a good teacher. And where are these good teachers? What can we do to not only recruit but retain good teachers? And so I went through a couple of studies about retention, how to best retain, So some of the suggestions were, like take a systems thinking approach to everything. Not everything is isolated. When somebody, maybe they resign and they leave, and maybe the principal's like, well, okay, we need to fill this position, and so they hire somebody new, and it's like, okay, problem solved. Well, what caused that teacher to resign? Could it have been for reasons that don't have anything to do with how the school is run? Possibly, yes. But if not, that's something that needs to be looked at. Systems. So how do we retain good teachers? The way we run our schools is a good indicator for how we're going to retain the best teachers. Okay? Or not. Let's see. That's basically what my paper is about. I was going to touch on, performance assessments, evaluation, observation protocol, but I didn't necessarily get to it. Really, when Frere talks about teaching, obviously the book is called Teachers as Cultural Workers. So, the reality is there are good and bad teachers. There are. And as leaders, we have to know that. And it's not necessarily our job to, let's get rid of them so we can make things better. The system approach is probably the best thing. Look at everything as a whole. How is everything working? Another thing is, initially, when you're looking to hire, let's hire people that have the same values, same, educational principles in mind. They believe the same about instruction, the same about behavior management. They're committed. I guess it might be different in curriculum and instruction, because at that point, your job as a leader is to not only ensure that kids are getting, state mandated TEKS and whatnot. You're making sure that teachers are, they have all the resources that they need, whether it be emotional support, some professional development, actual physical resources. But I guess since I'm studying leadership, educational leadership for the superintendency, I was looking at it from a different approach. And it's, like I said, how to employ, retain good teachers. Because that is an issue. And, politicians are using what doesn't go well against public education. And so we really have to be mindful of that, because taking away resources to make it so that we don't have the things that we need in order for our students to be successful, keeping in mind that it's the means to an end. They're using that to dismantle public education. So we need a counterinsurgency, right? We need to do everything that we can to ensure that the kids are getting everything that they need from us. Let's see. I also took the afterword from this book, the Handbook of Research on Literacy and Diversity. I went with the afterword because it was poignant, especially for what I wrote. Education in America, the kind that is equitable, fulfilling, and meaningful, is in short supply for reasons that are legion, with well-documented results. The real ravages of the system are largely ignored. Despite this, the imperative remains. America's school children, all of them, deserve powerful classrooms. Struggling with powerful ideas, orchestrated by powerful and empowered teachers, and supported by dynamic home school partnerships as well as community stakeholders. It takes a village. It's not just the teachers. And that was it. Let me know if you have any questions.